Well, hello and welcome to all of our listening viewers today. I'm Fiona Lang Sharp, IBCLC Director of Communications and MC here at Gold Learning. Well, today I'm sitting down with Annie Frisbie, and she is here with us. She is going to be talking about the ethics of digital privacy and lactation practice. Now, Annie is going to be joining us online for our Gold Lactation Conference this year, and we can't wait until she's here. Now, if you haven't noticed yet, our Gold Lactation Conference is coming up right away here. We are going to be having our opening keynote on March 30th. That's right. And it's going to be an open access and free event for all of you to come and join us. So that's very exciting. And we're going to have the delightful Brinna Sampi is going to be with us. So don't forget to go to our website at goldlactation.com and you can check out all the details and the times, right? All the time zones that you'll be able to join us on the 30th of March because that will be, we'll actually be doing that twice in that day too. So lots of time to join in. But of course, you know that we record our events as well. So if you can't come on that day, be sure to register now, but you'll be able to join us at any time and listen to the recorded event. So Annie is here with us today, and I'm going to ask Annie if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself. Perhaps you can tell us where you are in the world, Annie, and just tell us what's happening on your day to day right now.
Sure. So I'm Annie Frisbie, and I live in Queens, New York City. That is one of the five boroughs of New York City, very population dense area. And to be honest, as at the time that we're recording this, we are waiting for to find out if we're going to be told to shelter in our homes here in New York City. The outbreak is very bad here, and my family has been on basically self-quarantine for the last 5 or 6 days anyway. Um, just trying to figure out how this is all going to affect our daily life and just trying to love each other and be patient and just celebrate the gift that it is to have a family. So
Absolutely.
just feeling grateful and, all the feelings today.
Absolutely. And you and I were even talking earlier about just this emotional sense today of how things have changed very quickly for both you and I. And I'm actually on the opposite side of the United States right now, just outside of LA, but also waiting for all those things. And like you, Annie, very interesting. You know, we did decide to self-isolate in our family, and because it was the safest thing to do. But it comes with some real challenges in our work practice because now we're trying to figure out what we're going to do and how we're going to be supporting our families. And I know that you mentioned that you might be heading out to see a family today. But what will happen next for you, Annie? Are you able to share a little bit of what your plans are or what you're hoping that things will change for you over the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, it's a really big question because, every day I feel like I'm making the risk calculation of the safety of doing home visits. And like you mentioned, I have one scheduled for today, and there was a lot of conversation back and forth between me and the family. And I'm prepared for this one to possibly be my last until we're
Mhm.
told that it's safe to go back out again for anything other than buying groceries. And, in the meantime, just like I think all of you, anyone in private practice, we're all just trying to figure out how to support families online. I am so grateful for all of the education that I've personally sought out in things like supporting families who are pumping and safe bottle feeding. All of those skills are things that I really feel like I can communicate through a screen and really might be life-saving interventions right
Mm.
now.
Wow.
And also just being in such a close-knit community here in Queens, which kind of maybe sounds funny to people who don't live here, but having a new family in Queens means you get access to a community, and I do feel like there's going to be mobilization for things like peer-to-peer milk sharing, and we don't know what the safety is of that, but we also know that there are risks associated with using formula. And so I think we're all trying to figure it out as we go, and I really feel hopeful that our community leaders are going to set the right tone for that.
Right, yes. And I think that's going to be really important for many of us who are taking into consideration how practice might look, how we might be able to support families, and how those things are changed. I feel like right now, Annie, it is a one day at a time effort from all of us. And I know there's been a lot of communication on many of the lactation groups online. Is this something that you see that's going to probably expand over the next coming weeks just because people will be seeking professionals will be seeking some support because not every professional is in a group online, right? Like you and I.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there is a lot of, I mean, I guess like me personally, I've been fielding just nonstop questions from people who are in my community or new to my community are hearing about it, where my Facebook group where I support um, lactation consultants in private practice, and we're all like we're sharing updated all the resources we can find about how to go online and be ethical and how to do it and questions, and people are like, okay, I just signed up for this online platform, how do I use it? I'm confused. So trying to make it a really organized place to
Mhm.
find help. So we did end up putting some rules on the group and just saying we're going to try to limit all of the topics to just a few threads so that nobody has to
Sure.
keep up with too many different things. And I feel like that's kept it a little quiet, which has been good for me and my admin, Rachel O'Brien, just as we're triaging everybody's support needs.
Yeah.
And that's something we're going to see how that evolves. And just trying to find ways to make the information accessible. So I feel like there's certain things that we all need to know. And so there's some of those are clinical, and that's not my wheelhouse.
Right.
But the things that are about technology and best practices and communication, I'm really committed to anytime I find new information that's going to be helpful for lactation consultants. I'm trying really hard to get it out there on my website at paperlesslactation.com. I have one blog post about virtual consults, and I'm just putting everything there. I don't need to have like
Excellent.
them on like a million different places. I'm really
Right.
trying to keep everything like one place, easy.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. And if you didn't catch that, it's paperlesslactation.com. And in fact, as I mentioned to you, Annie, earlier, I have been on that website this week reading that blog. So just so you know, I think everyone is using it, which is great. And it's a great resource. Let me just go back and talk about a couple of things you mentioned about the group and how you're managing that, keeping the threads down to just a few. And I think this is relative to the type of support as professionals. And I mentioned, Annie, you really are a mentor in the community in this area. This is your expertise. And people sort of start becoming very reliant, especially right now on the information for virtual consults and things like that. But I think it's really important just to put out there that, there are limitations on what you can do as well as a human being, as a mother, as a wife, and so it's important that we're patient and we're kind to each other, and that, that we just take a step back and just live in that moment sometimes. Because I think what I've seen from you recently is when you've been updating and talking to people, you have been so generous, with the amount of time that you have been able to share with so many people. But we also want to be sure that we're caring for you, and because we want to give you the time that you need as well, because this is an adjustment period for everybody in all stretch. And I feel like every corner, every time I talk to somebody, it seems like everybody's on the adjustment curve right now. And so is that sort of what you're seeing too? Like you're adjusting everything in your life just a smidge, just a little at a time. And probably each time you hear an announcement, like a lot of us, it's sort of an adjustment for you. Is that correct?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, each day is new. It's hard to think that like a week ago I was debating whether or not I was going to go appear in person at the LCMPP workshop, which
Right.
I spoke at, and that was just a week ago that I was like, oh, and then I didn't go, which I'm very glad that I did. It was the right thing for me to do,
Hmm.
especially how things have broken out here in New York City. I would not have been a safe person for any of the
Right.
attendees to be around. But
Yeah.
just to think that a week ago where my brain was, of like, oh, I don't know, maybe it'll be weird being on the train. Should I wipe down the
I
surfaces
know.
on the train? And then to think where I am today, where I'm like, I we're gonna, we have plenty of food in my house personally.
Sure.
Thank goodness. I'm
Yeah.
grateful again. But
Hmm.
like when we run out of food, like you can't get Amazon Fresh delivered. Like we can't get
No.
it's just all the appointment slots, they're just not available. And so
Yeah.
all of those infrastructure things that we rely on as New Yorkers are just kind of feeling the impact of that every day. Just that our way of life is like overnight just transformed. And that's, I know that's affecting our families too. And,
Mm.
had a couple of, emotional consults. Some of them were virtual this week where, just like holding space for them, for the feelings
Mm.
they're having,
Totally.
and, being available for them, which also, and I think this is true for any lactation consultant, like we know how to do that for families. We
Hmm.
know how to be safe to just let them just sit with their feelings and not go outside of scope and just, be a warm presence. And then we go away and we have our own feelings
Oh
about what
yeah.
we just went through, about having to be strong for somebody else. And I think that that's the part where I just like, if there's anything I feel like people need to know, and this is all out of the training that I just hosted with Kristen Cavuto on mental health first aid, is that if like start looking for an online therapist today, like we all are going to need them. And I hope the therapists are getting therapy. Like I
Yes.
just want us all to have a safe
Absolutely.
person to talk to, and just to acknowledge that the things that we are going through doesn't have to be the same as what somebody else is going through, but like what you're going through is real. I know it is for me, and I know I can't do this alone. And
No.
so I'm looking for help, and I hope everybody else is too.
Oh, just love, love, love to you for sharing that. I think that you spoke for so many people of how they're feeling, what they're hoping for. I know for myself too, I recognize that being, a caregiver and empathic as well is that, I can't give out. It's very hard right now to give. But I care so much that I want to hold that space just like you. But at the end of the day, I know that, our children also transitioning like yours, my partner, so many people around us, right? And so we do have to hold each other up. And I think in some ways, Annie, there is an accountability too, to step in and, hold a virtual hand of a friend as they come to terms with what's happening locally for them as well. So, really important message there. Thank you so much just for sharing that. It's just, it bodes so well with what's happening in the climate right now. So some other things, of course, that we are still going to be doing is that we still are going to be, working towards improving the things that we need to learn. We have opportunities. We have definitely some free education at Gold, and we've got our lactation conference coming up, and I know that you're going to be part of that as well. And so before we let you go, because I know you have a busy day ahead of you still, but we want to talk a little bit about the ethics of digital privacy and just a little bit in terms of things. I know we've got a lot of climate change right now. We've got things changing in our community. I'm not sure if this is going to impact digital privacy or not, but it feels like there's sometimes when things like this happen, or we haven't had this happen before, but when there's been other disasters, sometimes practice has changed. So tell me a little bit about that, and then perhaps you can tell me what our audience should expect from this presentation at Gold Lactation, Annie.
Yeah, I'm feeling like it is a pretty timely presentation. In privacy laws legislation differs around the world. So in many places, like in the EU and Canada, the privacy is based on the individual's right to privacy. And in other places, like in the US, we've got all these like privacy legislation is all about like, here's all the things you have to make sure you do so you don't get in trouble. And
Mm,
thankfully here in the US, the executive branch has said they are not going to be enforcing our draconian privacy legislation, which frees up clinicians to be able to do virtual consults using platforms like FaceTime, which I really think is going to be a game changer.
Mm.
Because it's not like, okay, I've got to make sure I've got my all my ducks in a row. But in the presentation, when I give it, I'm going to be talking about what digital privacy is on a larger level to help you understand that even when you're granted an exception, as we have been
Right.
in the US, you still have an obligation to protect client privacy. And in many ways, this moment is going to pose risks to our human right to privacy. And I think that, we can really play a part in just doing our part to protect our clients from those digital invasions that
Mm.
I think might get worse with all of this happening. And so just because we're allowed to use these non-private channels doesn't mean that we should unless we have to. If you have no other choice, do it. That's great. You have the means and the resources to implement a platform that protects your client's privacy. Do it. It's the right thing to
Right.
do. And you'll learn more why in my presentation.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, that's certainly, I'm intrigued because this is a time where lots of things are changing. And I know you were even talking about, essentially there could be changes, as you talk through some of these things at the live presentation as well. So I know that you're going to be keeping up to date on what's happening. Hopefully, you'll have an opportunity to pace yourself. I know you've got big changes coming up in New York, so we wish you the very best. We hope that you can steady yourself and your family as you go through these transitions, as the rest of us do as well. And we will look out for each other. There's no doubt about it, because that's what we do here as part of the community. So thank you so much, Annie, for being with me here today. It was really lovely to sit down and really chat with you.
I'm really glad I got to talk with you, Fiona. I know it's a hard day for you as well, and it's healing. And I don't know if it's healing, but it helps to be
Something,
reminded
right?
of
Yeah.
this like amazing work that we do get to do and this special place we occupy in the world. So thank you for everything you and Gold are doing. I know you've got a ton of free trainings coming out, and I'm just so grateful to you guys for what you do.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again. I appreciate you being here today. So, folks, that's it for now. Don't forget to join us on Gold Lactation for our free presentations coming up. That's March 30th. That's the kickoff date for our full conference. And we'll look forward to having many of you there, including Annie, who's going to be here talking about the ethics of digital privacy. And we'll look forward to seeing you online. You can go to the website right now at goldlactation.com. But that's it for now, folks. Thanks for joining us today. Bye bye for now.